friends, and thank you so much for joining us for another session of our live coaching calls. It's Thursday, March 14th, and we do this every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, which is tough for us Arizona folks because we don't do daylight savings time. So it's a moving target for me. With me, as always, is our community manager and really the person behind all the things that work at Nido Marketing, Deneen. Deneen, thanks for being here.
Yeah, for sure. And just a side note for daylight savings, it's also confusing for the rest of the country because you guys don't do it. So now we're like trying to figure out where we are in the whole world.
I missed a meeting this morning. I messaged a client and said, hey, I'm on the bridge whenever you're ready. And he was like, dude, we don't meet for another hour. So it's already ruining my life. I don't think daylight savings time is a valid concept any longer. I know it was like it's agrarian, right? That was the whole point of it. But I just don't think we need it. So
right. I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. In fact, I think there's a petition going around. So you should look out for that.
Nicole said, I agree. Awesome. That's my activism for today. So I'm going to dive. Can I dive right into it?
Go.
Okay. We're making some significant changes with Nido's model. And it's something that I've kind of been fighting a little bit. But what's really interesting about just how serendipitous this topic is and the timing is, the New York Times put out an article yesterday that's going to explain what it is we're doing and why we're doing that. So I'm actually going to share my screen here if I can figure out how to be a smart person.
What is it titled? I'm curious because usually the title is what draws you in.
It's Facebook's data deals are under criminal investigation.
That's a big one.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with the flickering, but you can see the article. This came out yesterday. And I just want to point something out. I'm about to be arrogant here for just a few seconds, but our lead strategist, John Moran, who works on all the Nido projects as the strategist, and then some of you have met him directly, he's been saying this for almost a year. For almost 12 months, John's been saying there's something wrong with Facebook's ability to perform interest-based segmentation. And our guess at the time was the minute Zuckerberg went in front of Congress, which happened last year, they yanked all of the data that they were providing because they realized that they were pretty close to getting caught. And I'll include a link to this article in the notes of this coaching call if you have any interest in reading it. But the short version of a long story is it appears as though Facebook was using information they should not have used in a way they should not, and shared it in a way that they shouldn't have been sharing it. So it's actually a dual fault. They were purchasing information. I don't want to use the word illegally because I don't know that it was illegal, but in ways that maybe they shouldn't have been purchasing it. So that's already bad. Just having the information they had was probably overstepping bounds a little bit. And then the way they made it available to people was, if not a violation of terms of service, at a minimum, it was a breach of etiquette. And it's why Facebook worked so well for so long. At least that's how it appears. Now, I can't prove most of this, but we have a lot of anecdotal data. Facebook used to rain leads, and they weren't always the highest quality, but they were real. You got somebody on the phone. It was a real parent. They actually had a child. They were interested in school. They remembered filling out your form. And then all of a sudden, about a year ago, it started to just slowly degrade. And we'd have members telling us, I called these people and they don't even remember filling out my information, or they're way off base and just nowhere near what it is that we want. And we're, Facebook allowed us to usually segment with a scalpel. The scalpel became kind of a machete, and then the machete became just like a blunt instrument where you're just batch and blasting everybody in this geographic area, and the lead quality is abysmal. Now, it still worked for our members, for quite a few, to be frank, which is what kept us holding on. But we just reached out to all of our third and fourth plane members last week and said, hey, we can't in good conscience, how'd I do? Recommend Facebook any longer as it currently stands. So for the members that Facebook's still working for, you can absolutely still use Facebook. And I would say do it. I mean, if Facebook's working, let's use Facebook. But it's no longer part of our core curriculum, let's say. It's not something that we're going to come out and say this tends to be sort of a ubiquitous truth in terms of marketing. We do have some members that are on Facebook and Instagram, and it continues to be performing. But for everybody else, we would like to put your funds into something that's more effective like Google. Deneen, how did I do so far? Was it okay?
Yeah. And Nicole just said thank you for the email about Facebook.
Oh, awesome.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I mean, I know behind the scenes, you and I have gone back and forth on this, right? Like, but we just kept seeing these leads just diminish, pretty exponentially, which was challenging in a way. But I'm curious, aside from what our shift was or is there still advice that we want to give to our members of how to use Facebook? So we're advising not to use it for, ads, but for remarketing. Yes.
Yes, I think Facebook is still very viable for remarketing, and I can explain why. With
Sure.
the ads, Facebook used to allow us to say, "Hey, I want to market only in Edina, Minnesota to people who eat organic foods and make this much money and have this many children that are of this age, and voted for, I don't know who's a good Minnesotan politician that I can use.
I just don't know.
No,
Don't
yeah,
ask me.
voted for the wrestler guy that was your governor. But you know what I'm saying? Like you could get
Come on, that was years ago.
Yeah, I
Stop.
don't. Yeah, you can get really granular, and even better, that level of granularity was reliable. So if I said, "Hey, I want somebody who voted for this person," I actually got somebody who voted for that person. And in a world where we're all marketing based off of demographic and psychographic data, that's so important. Because if I can tell where you sit politically, I probably know, what kind of school you're going to be receptive to, and how that narrative conforms. So Facebook was really good. It was amazing. It was scary. People were talking about like, the Orwellian future and how Facebook can target. Well, come to find out, Facebook wasn't coming by that data ethically, which incidentally is not a surprise because when you deal with Facebook's, anytime I deal with Google's team, because our Google team has a dedicated Google team at Google, and they talk about
Made
strategy.
by Montessorians.
Yeah, that's right. Anytime I deal with Google teams, their question always is, how can we improve the performance of these campaigns? Which is awesome. They're approaching this the right way. Anytime you deal with Facebook's team, their question is how can we get these people to spend more money? So this is not like a high integrity organization. So they're basically using data they shouldn't be using in ways that they should have been using it. So their segmentation is flawed. However, remarketing allows you to put advertisements in front of people that have visited your site already. And they're, in my opinion, intrinsically qualified. So I think that Facebook is still very viable for remarketing. I also think that where Facebook has proven itself no longer to be the same, it's not the same quality tool for lead generation. It still works for branding. Because lead generation, if I actually want somebody to come to my school, it requires a very significant level of engagement. And it means that you have to get in front of the right people because those are expensive ads to run. Whereas if you just want people to see your school and to kind of watch your video is going to be really important here, but to tell your story, you can do that for pennies and fractions of pennies and sometimes. And that's the television advertisement paradigm where if I batch and blast to everybody in the zip code, everybody's going to see it, including the people that are mission appropriate. So I think branding and brand development for schools that can afford to do that. I think remarketing. I think Instagram is going to be really important in the future, especially for brand development. Matt Hillis right now at Bergamo is working on this. He's got some really awesome strategies he's rolling out that we're going to use for our Nido clients. So I don't think the Facebook/Instagram channel is dead completely. I also think that hopefully maybe they bring their segmentation back because, a $1 trillion brand doesn't just give up. So what they've done now, they got caught obviously doing something they shouldn't have been doing. And they're trying to, cover their hindquarters. I would imagine that in the future, they're going to find ways to provide the same level of service they provided, just hopefully in a better, higher integrity way, in a way that doesn't get them sued anyway. So we can still use Facebook. It's still a viable option. I wouldn't use Facebook for lead generation. Facebook used to get you a tour. It got you a qualified tour of a mission appropriate parent. It's not doing that any longer. And what's really frustrating for us is, and I don't know how to say this without sounding arrogant. So I'm just going to say it. We're the only ones saying this. We're the only ones saying this. The voice, the narrative in the digital marketing community, everybody that's advising other schools and clients and whatever, they're all saying, still go use Facebook. And it's an emperor's new clothes situation where I don't want to be the iconoclast because it makes us sound like we don't know what we're doing. If the entire industry is saying, oh, Facebook, 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 and we're the only morons, shouting into the wind saying, no, we don't think this is a good idea. That's part of the reason that I've been so trepidatious to even roll this change out. But I mean, at a certain point, we just had to pull the plug. And it's so interesting to me. We pulled the plug last week and we've got date stamped emails to prove it. And then yesterday we get data released or an article released saying that Facebook's under criminal investigation. So I think that we're we've been vindicated, and that was by accident. We obviously didn't plan that at all. But anyway, Facebook and Instagram aren't dead, but they're not anything that I want to rely on. If you have a brand development play, use them. And those are our larger schools with larger spend. If you're willing to invest in people just seeing your logo, which we all know is so important, then I think Facebook and Instagram can still be very viable. If you're a smaller school, and if every dollar you spend needs to return a dollar, which I think is 80% of our user base, I would go to Google and I would go to Bing. And that's actually a good segue for the way that our program is going to change. But I want to pause, Deneen, because as usual, I've been talking this whole time, and I want to make sure that I imagine there's things that you need to qualify.
No, I just I want to thank you and Matt, both of you, for just being honest and holding that integrity. Because as a Montessorian, and I know I probably speak for most, if not all of our members, it's really important for us to trust who is kind of taking over certain parts of our school. And so knowing that you guys are always on the ball, or we, I guess, are on the ball, we're honest. And even if that means it puts us in an uncomfortable space, which is exactly where we're at right now, we're swimming upstream when everything else is coming downstream. So I just want to highlight that. And you use the word arrogant a lot, and I don't think you're arrogant. I just think you're honest. And I think, most of our members appreciate that, if not all of them.
Thank you for saying that. I can tell you what I'm afraid of, just radical transparency. I'm afraid of being wrong. It might be what I'm afraid of more than anything, because if we're sitting here talking to, we have 620 member schools now, and we're recommending what they do. And if we tell 620 schools, hey, don't market on Facebook, and we're wrong, that could be a catastrophic error. That's the type of thing that allows your competitors to gain a foothold, which maybe is why we didn't do this as soon as we should have. But we're at a point now to where there's just no other option. Right. So I really appreciate you saying that. I'm not trying to dismiss that comment, but I do want to say that just for our members to know, this is uncharted territory, and it always will be. So a lot of what we're doing is very speculative. We're trying to figure things out. There's no blueprint. That's what we're trying to create. And we will be wrong probably often, but hopefully about small things, because that's what digital marketing is. It's just feeling forward. The big things I don't want to be wrong about. This is really uncomfortable for us because Facebook is one of our two primary strategies. Our two biggest service levels are the third plane and the fourth plane, and the fourth plane rests on Google Ads and the third plane rests on Facebook. Well, we just had to go and, imagine having to remove an entire program from your school. Like, hey, we can't have an infant program anymore because whatever. It sucks, but it's just the right thing to do. So we're going to do it anyway. And we have a good segue, but I've got comments from Melissa. She said, this is good to hear because we've been putting together an online campaign and wondered if Facebook was a viable resource to use. I've seen Facebook go down in activity as a user. Yeah. And, hopefully, I'm glad I timed this right. It would stink to have already deployed your Facebook campaign and then be on this webinar, which I know some people have done. We've deployed Facebook campaigns as recently for members. I think the most recent one went live less than a month ago, right?
Yeah.
If I remember. So, it's a quick pivot and it's an uncomfortable place to be. But I want to explain how we plan on pivoting. This is
Can I say something really quick?
Oh yeah, please. Sorry.
Yeah. So a majority of what informed our decision is what our members were experiencing. So there was many conversations that we were having with our members of just like this, nothing's happening, right? Like we're putting this energy and this money, and that's ultimately what it comes down to, right? Like we don't want to say and put all of our eggs in one basket and say this is going to work and keep trying and knocking on the door that's just not right.
Right.
And again, you can't know what you don't know.
Right.
And it's impossible to know, but with the data that we've gathered and with the conversations and hearing feedback, that's what has informed these decisions. And even, to Melissa's comment, she's noticed it as well. And that's exactly what we're hearing across the board. Like, I don't even know if there's one. Do we have a member that Facebook's working for in the Montessori community?
Instagram is working for.
Okay. Yeah. That's true.
So
which now we're going to hopefully shift in that direction a bit and kind of test those waters.
Which makes sense because they're two different networks, even though they're owned by the same people. But you're right. And you just said something really brilliant, Deneen. Part of our confidence comes from the fact that we have so much data now. When I was just running Matt's campaign, it's 4 schools in Sacramento. So if Facebook starts to poorly perform, your first instinct as a marketer is, oh, I'm doing something wrong, or the market has changed, or it's geocentric. But to have all of the schools that we have, which I think accounts, I mean, we're running ads for over 20 schools, which is significant.
Coast
and
to coast.
Coast to coast. That's exactly right. And every single one of them is seeing at a minimum a decline in Facebook. And for the most part, just, I mean, crickets, nothing. And what's really frustrating is when you do generate a lead, like if you're not generating a lead, you're going, okay, there's something wrong with the campaign. My key phrases aren't resonating. It's a saturated market. The people are sick of the narrative. But then we do generate leads, and the leads are abysmal, like just the worst leads that you could get. And so, yeah, I think Facebook is shriveling. And Nicole said Facebook leads are terrible for us at Acton. I remember that. And Nicole, pat on your back, because y'all made the decision way before we did. They were like, we're not doing Facebook, put it all into Google.
It's like, finally, you guys are getting it.
Yeah, that was really funny. I think that happened like almost right away, didn't Nicole? I mean, you ran Facebook for 2 months and we're just instant like Band-Aids ripped off and we went straight into Google for you. So yeah, pretty soon. Really well done. Gosh, I forgot about that, but that's egg on my face, I guess, because you saw this before we did. Yeah. So anyway, do you mind? I'm going to jump into how we're going to change.
Yep.
Here's the plan. We have 2 membership levels that actually offer, here we go, that actually offer paid ad management. There's the 3rd plane and the 4th plane. And the 3rd plane focuses very heavily on Facebook paid ad management. Here's the disadvantage that we're at is Google ad management. And for anybody who we're running Google ads for, you know this to be true. It's way too intense a service for us to be able to offer within this price point. We have to be here in order to offer you comprehensive Google ad management because we're in there every single day. And I mean, if somebody has to do something every single day, there's just no way to get that done for $500 a month. The value of the resource required coupled with the time just doesn't pencil. However, we want our 3rd plane members to have the ability to grow. So the 3rd plane has a lot of really awesome assets, and we have a few members that join just for the content. And that's great. But we want them to have something. So what we've decided to do is we're going to make the 3rd plane a customizable package. So it's going to include, of course, everything in the 2nd plane, like it already does, all of the content assets, and one done-for-you service. And you get to pick what that done-for-you service is. And so you can go with Facebook or Instagram if you want to go after branding, which is perfectly fine, branding or remarketing. This is great for our schools that have very little in the way of ad spend. So, hey, I don't want to spend a bunch of money online. We're okay with our current admissions, but we do want the content and we do want the assets and we do want the higher level of engagement. You can also go with, and we have, I think, 2 members that are doing this now. You can go with our unlimited maintenance package. So we'll host your website. We'll make as many changes as you want to your website. We do uptime monitoring, hack assurance, update plugins, if you want to blog post it, etc. And what's cool about that is the maintenance includes graphic design. So, social media images, brochures, business cards, whatever, unlimited maintenance, unlimited graphic design, and that's a done-for-you service. Another done-for-you service is the content management. So we'll post your blogs to your site for you. We'll make sure they're SEO optimized. We'll send out your email newsletters for you and send you reporting, and we will schedule your social posts for you. So all of your content is not just written on your behalf, but it's also scheduled on your behalf, which is pretty cool for a school that, if you say, gosh, there's just not enough time in the day, we can take care of all that good stuff for you. And this is all going to be on the site, so you don't have to take notes or anything. I just want to make apparent what's becoming available. The last one, and this is the one that I'm most afraid of, is we're going to offer Google Ads Lite. It can't be a comprehensive Google Ad management campaign because there's not enough time in the day. But what we're doing is we're using the data that we have from other members to isolate the 10 highest performing key phrases, and we're making those what Google calls exact match. And we're targeting only exact match key phrases. There will be a budget limitation. You won't be able to spend more than $500 without moving up to the 4th plane. And that's, again, because the more money you spend, the more time it takes us to manage. And we also won't be reaching into your ecosystem to figure out what works. What's really cool about Google Ads when it's comprehensive is you learn lessons that are amazing, but they're also expensive lessons to learn. And because we have limited time and limited funds, we can't afford to do that. So the Google Ads Lite is very, very focused only on the key phrases we know for a fact will perform. And there's also a budget limitation. But it gives our 3rd plane members the opportunity to experience some level of increased admissions. And for any of our 4th plane members who say, hey, that sounds like as much as I need because you joined the 4th plane for Google Ads, then it's good news for you. You can downgrade and still receive that service. We want to make sure that everybody feels like they're not getting bait and switched, because when a service-based organization like ours comes out and says, hey, we're no longer doing this thing, the wrong thing to do would be to do less. The right thing to do is to say, hey, I can't give you this, so I'm going to give you more of something else. And so that's what we're trying to do, is splice up all these different packages. And then, every school we've ever been on the phone with is kind of wanted a custom package. And because we wanted to be scalable, we have all of these sort of pre-built packages. And so what we're trying to do now is be scalable and have pre-built packages, but in a way that lets you customize them for your needs. This will be rolling out by the end of March. I'm happy to hop on the phone with anybody who has any questions or concerns. And we just want to make sure we do this the right way. How did I do, Deneen? Anything to add?
No, it's a really good overview of both. I think, are you ready to talk a little bit about the second plane too? Because there's some things that we're going to do there. And I don't know, I know you had a conversation yesterday, so I don't know if it's too early.
No, it's not too early at all. I'm excited about that one. For our second plane members, so one of the questions we get all the time is, can you guys just do this for me? Because I mean, the Calendly and the lead magnet and the website audit and the 16 things your website must do. And then, Montessori comes in our membership base and they're just like, there's way too much. What we're doing is anybody who purchases an annual package for the second plane, which is $470, we're basically doing for them what we do to get our 3rd and 4th plane members started. So for our 3rd and 4th plane members, the minute they sign up, we set their foundation up. So we build out their Calendly. We install a lead magnet on their site if they want one. We help them create their nurture. We'll audit the website, add uptime monitoring, etc. And there's also some assets that we've been creating for our 3rd and 4th plane members. Hopefully you've been getting those in the mail. But we've been creating brochures on everybody's program. Deneen's building a history of Montessori infographic that we're going to customize for every school. So we're calling it the starter package. And I'm getting derailed. I'm so sorry. If you purchase the annual plan for the second plane, then we're gonna offer you the Montessori starter package, and it basically does everything that you need it to do in order for you to go and manage some of these processes. Because we realize that the 3rd and 4th plane, it's just not accessible for some schools, but we don't want to make it. We still want to empower you to do some of the done for you things. And I think an initial sort of rocket fuel shot in the arm that gets you set up might help you. You do things like, hey, run your own Facebook campaign, or run your own micro Google campaign or whatever. So that's the plan for the second plane. We're rolling it out to our existing members first, and then I think we're going to present it at the AMS conference in a week. And as with everything we do, it's not like limited time by now. It's going to be available. So if it doesn't sound right for you now, but you want it in the future, we're not gonna pull the rug out from under you. But that's the plan for the second plane. How did I do there?
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm excited about this one especially because, again, it's informed by the data based on our interaction with members. And the feedback that we get the most is, I don't know where to start, which is why we have a start here section in our members section, right? Because it's like, there's just so much, and especially if marketing is not your thing. And it wasn't my thing either. I mean, I remember coming in, I'm like, Cosmo, I don't know where to start. Like, so start here. But this is like,
so good at this too, is because you had to start from the beginning. And so, the feeling, and yeah.
Yeah. And it's overwhelming, especially, if you're ahead of school where you have just so much stuff to do. But what I love about this second plane package is that it is exactly rocket fuel. It's like, it gets you set up to streamline your processes. And if you decide in the future to move to the 3rd or 4th plane and you want to run PPC campaigns and you want to put some money in there, it positions you so much easier for that because you've got those things in place already. And then, you still have the courses available to you if you want to learn some more about what to add and how to, support what you're already doing or want to do more. I mean, there's just so much, there's a lot of great things in the second plane, which I feel like, we've been talking about here and there. So I'm excited to beef that one up too.
I am too. I want to give Montessorians everything they need to be successful. Yeah. And I want to do it in the most accessible way that we can possibly do it. And hopefully we've proven that a little bit. Like, we want to make money, of course, but if it's 1 + 1 = 50, then I think we can make money with integrity and help a bunch of schools grow. And that's awesome. And that's what I feel like we're doing with some of these changes and these updates. One note
that was really good.
Say that again?
if 1 + 1 = 50, then we're doing okay.
Yeah, well, that's what business should be, right? Like if you think about, that's what a Montessori school provides. Hey, give me some amount of money and I'll prepare your child for the rest of their lives.
Right.
Right?
This is
Like,
investments, you
yeah,
know.
you can charge $1 million a minute and still justify that expense.
Right.
Yeah, 1 + 1 should always equal 50, and that's just the good way to conduct high integrity commerce. I'll get off my capitalist bandwagon before I get before I stage a coup. Emily said, that's what I appreciate about Nido. I was approached by another very pushy marketing co, and it was off-putting. Thanks for saying that, Emily. I think I know who you're talking about. And yeah, no further comments necessary. I'd love to know from our active participants right now, those of you that are here with us live, how are we doing? Have we explained the change well, the reason for the change well? Does the new program sound more appealing, or do you feel like, oh gosh, we're losing out on some things? Is there anything else you want us to add? Are there any gaps in our service offering? Like, beat us up a little bit, because nothing could be more helpful at this particular moment in time.
And it always has been, you know. I mean,
yeah,
again, that's why we're at where we're at, is because we keep getting great feedback and hearing a lot. So.
Nicole just said, I really appreciate your transparency about the changes. Sorry, Deneen.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
okay, I get this one.
Hey.
Yes, understood and appreciate that you are available for questions. Awesome. That's Emily.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, this is exciting. You know, I mean, I feel like we're just going to be a step ahead of the curve again. I'm also interested to see what happens when our competitors continue to push Facebook and our members get this narrative.
Okay, this one's mine again. Melissa said she loves the content and the resources.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Melissa.
That's good. And I was on the phone with a member just before this call, and she had questions about content. And so remember that if you ever, you have ideas for content, we're always open for that, because as we're creating more and more and more, and we have such a large library, we'd love to get some ideas. If there's a specific pain point that your parents are going through and you're like, I really wish I would have, more information about kindergartners, or more information about transitions, from toddler to primary, or anything specific would be really helpful.
The best content we've had all of the ideas have come from members. Like the importance of the kindergarten year came from a member, and that's our most engaged with blog.
Right. Okay, yours.
Emily said, I actually wrote the man running the other company a letter nicely telling him how and why it was off-putting, trying to help him. It wasn't well received. And then she said, I've been using the content. Thank you. That's awesome. And that also doesn't surprise me at all. I think that marketers are used to approaching a certain type of business owner, and Montessorians sure as heck are not that type of business owner. There's this feeling.
You had a learning curve on that too. I remember, and in a good way. Like I think your personality characteristics, in comparison to what Emily's talking about, is very different. But it was challenging, right? Like you're still trying to figure out, or I think you nailed it. Now you are like a Montessorian, plus you're a Montessori dad, so there's that.
Maybe I come to discussion. I'm a Montessori dad for sure. I come to discussions with the intention of overcoming objection. Anytime I'm in a sales conversation, that's what you're supposed to do. And Montessorians don't respond to that quite as well. In a good way, and I think it's because of the way that you think. Everything that Montessorians do is transparent, and it's foundational. So A, we're just going to have an open conversation. B, we're going to start from the bottom and figure out how all of this works. Because I think that's kind of what Montessori education is in a lot of ways. And that means that all the tools in my tool belt as a quote unquote salesperson are completely dismantled right away. And so if somebody says now's not the right time, if I'm talking to any other client, I know that's not really true. Like you're just trying to get a discount, or you want to see what else we can do, and then I can talk you into it. But if I hear that from a Montessori head of school, I know instantly, totally understood. You say what you mean, and there's not nearly as much posturing. So it's not quite as much that what we were doing was wrong per se. It's that we're used to dealing with other business people that also kind of posture and BS and play the game, and Montessorians don't play that game. And I think if you can get clarity on that very quickly, and I had great teachers in Ewan and Matt, then I think you can interface with this ecosystem really well.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you all sniff out the junk right away.
What's that?
You guys sniff out just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right through you. Come on, we work with children all day, and
That's exactly what it
we
is.
observe children all day, and we know human tendencies. So yeah, we can read y'all like a book.
Do you want to take Melissa's? Because that's maybe my favorite comment of all time.
Yep, and then Emily also mentioned that she's using the content, which is
awesome.
So we will have to look into the fourth lane because we're starting our online campaign and found that Google can be overwhelming, yes, with all the comprehensive data. Absolutely, it's still overwhelming for me, which is why I'm so thankful that you guys exist.
Awesome.
So that's awesome. Do you have any thoughts on Google quick? And its overwhelmingness?
I truly believe that people should not be running their own Google campaigns. The issue with that is of course, I would say that. It's, in a lot of ways, it's enlightened self-interest. It's the reason Montessorians don't think you should do Montessori at home. So much of, like you can read all the books you want to read, but the environment and the ecosystem and the people and the experience, like that's part of what's brought to it. We've got an entire team of people that are nothing but just a bunch of super nerds that watch those little numbers all day, every day, and then figure things out and watch changes in the ecosystem. With that said, I would rather you run Google on your own than not run it at all. And we have some education on exactly how to do that. And Emily was asking about transition from another company to you with Google. How does that work? That's a great question. We're dealing with this right now with another Emily, interestingly. She has a Montessori school, and the agency they're working with is holding their Google campaign hostage. And I'm going to war with them right now because I'm really good at that. And, this is that Emily. Oh, my goodness. Good for you. So, sorry, Emily. We have another Emily. I thought you were, forgive me. I have the ability to go to Google and rat these folks out, which I'm not going to do until the very end because I don't want it to happen to me. And I actually think the people that are doing this just don't know what they're doing. But the reason I wanted to bring that up is to answer your question. If somebody's holding your Google account hostage and you can't get it, then we have to rebuild, which is the less preferable option. If we don't have to rebuild, what's nice is even if they had an abysmal Google campaign, we get a massive amount of data. So I want access to your Google campaign first. And then if we can get access to your Google campaign, then we'll rebuild. If we can't, we've got, 20 other campaigns that we get to draw from. And that's the cool thing about Montessori is every new school we add empowers all of the other schools because we use that information for everybody. And it's not always translatable. Nicole, who's on this call, has a greater emphasis on an elementary program that other Montessori schools may not have. But the things that are transferable really help empower us with additional data. So if you're coming from another agency, we're going to rebuild no matter what. We're not going to use their campaign, but I'd rather have it on the front end just so I can see what they did wrong.
Yeah, and it gives us data, to see where things are.
Yeah.
We also have, we're getting more secondary, like junior high, middle school, junior high, high school schools that we haven't had in the past either. So, the more that we're getting there, the more data we're providing, and then they're kind of feeding off of each other too. Because that's another thing for Montessorians. We've always, especially if you have, an upper elementary program, you're always thinking about the next step, and you're going to get parents that are knocking on your door like, hey, what about 7th and 8th grade? So we're just getting into that space right now, which is exciting because we could help push Montessori in that, adolescent stage, which is exciting.
It absolutely is. And we actually did really well with our very first high school campaign,
right.
Which I was pleasantly surprised by because we all knew it was speculative and there's traffic there for that.
Right.
Melissa's asking, so could I be a second plane member customized by adding Google management? No, ma'am. You'd have to be the customizable plane is third plane. And so you could be a third plane member and then add what we're calling Google Lite. It's not the same Google service that our other members get. You don't get the same key phrases, negative key phrases, sculpting, etc. It's a limited scope of key phrases that we predefined. Think of it as a really tight Google template. And there's a limited spend there too, but it's a great way to dip your toe in the water. So if you want to say, hey, can this Google thing work for me? Then that's a good direction to go into. Any other questions, comments, concerns, confessions?
This is going to be good. So you said it's going to be on the website by the end of the month, is that right?
Yes, I just talked to the developer yesterday who's building this out for us. And so hopefully it's not that significant a change. It'll impact our processes on the back end as far as creating them. But we'll be ready to go by the end of the month. We can transition existing members sooner. So if you're on the second, third, or fourth plane and you say, hey, I really want to do whatever, XYZ, then we can do that. But for our non-members or for our first plane members, you'll be able to sign up for any one of these packages by April 1st.
Cool. Emily wants to know, she has a couple of guys who have been working on her website. Another company does Google. Not sure. I want to bail on the guys. They've been good to me. How would that work with you?
I've been on the phone with that gentleman. His name's Keith, and he's awesome. And I love him, and I wouldn't bail on him. Nido does not offer search engine optimization by design. The reason we don't offer SEO is because we have too many member schools, and we would have to choose. Right now, we offer exclusivity within a 6-mile radius. That's another thing I should mention is if you're on the third plane, we can't offer you exclusivity, sadly, for obvious reasons. But if you're on the fourth plane, you get exclusivity within a 6-mile radius. So 80% of your students are going to come within 5 miles, which we have found to be statistically true. That came from a Montessori study. So we added a mile there to make sure that we were being good folks. And we won't take another school on within 6 miles. I can't do that with SEO. With SEO, because it's so broad reaching, we could only take on one school in every city, which it just inhibits our ability to help Montessori schools grow. So we have training on SEO so you can do it yourself. But if you wanted to keep working with Keith and Joe, you can absolutely do that. We won't cross swords at all. As a matter of fact, if you gave them the content that we're producing for you, they would love that, because as SEOs, they get to customize the content and use it to point them in the right direction. And sorry, SEO is search engine optimization. So whenever you Google something, and I'll share my screen right now so you can see it.
And this is also good to know for us because, because we don't do that. And if we get members that are interested in those services, we can always, point you in a certain direction. And it's good to know that Keith is a good guy.
Right.
Of course, we want to make sure we point you into the right direction.
And I'm actually going to search for a different phrase because I'm not getting what I want. Darn it. What else can I search for? The problem, Google knows that, there we go. So if somebody searches for a Montessori school near me and you're in a competitive environment, and the reason incidentally Google's not delivering me ads is because I search for that key phrase so often, it's beginning to understand that I'm not a viable prospect any longer. That's how smart Google is. So sometimes I have members that call us and say, hey, why doesn't my school show up when I search for myself? And I'll say, because Google knows you're not going to click on it. It's learning your traffic and behavior patterns. So what we do is we help position you here. And you see each one of these links has a little tag on it that says ad. And I'll try to zoom in a little bit so you can see it. So if somebody searches for Montessori school near me, not naturopathic doctor, then your school will show up on, and there's only 4 ads at the very top at absolute most. So anywhere between 0 and 4, depending on how many people are bidding. We help position you here. And there's a ton of logic. How much do you want to spend per click? Where do we want to bid? For instance, sometimes it's actually more cost effective to be number 2, 3, or 4 than it is to be number 1. Because if this is $50 a click and this is $20 a click, and this only gets 20% less clicks or whatever, then you might find that you're better positioned to be number 2. When you bid, how you bid, where you bid, what your ad copy says, we take care of all of that. This is Google Ads, also known as PPC. Search engine optimization, which is, Emily, it's what Keith does for you, which is a service we do not provide. It helps. This is my client, by the way. We have him on the top half of the first page of everything for Google. It helps land you here. So when somebody searches for something and they skip the ads, when you see a map listing, and more to the point, when you see an organic listing, the organic listing is what search engine optimization does. This is also my client. So I search for naturopathic doctor. I'm in the same zip code as this client, and they're the very first practice to come up before any other individual practice. All these are content sites, and his is the first practice to come up because we helped provide him with SEO, which means that he's basically beating his competition in the space. Here's what's interesting is statistically about 95% of all traffic goes to the organic results first. However, 67% of all high commercial intent traffic goes to the paid results. Here's what that means is when people are doing research, and you've probably experienced this in your own browsing patterns and habits, when they're doing research, they're more likely to click on these links. When they're ready to buy, they're more likely to click on these links. And it makes sense. There's a number of reasons why. The first and maybe the most important is the fact that Google doesn't let you optimize salesy key phrases. So, things like stop living in pain, get your life back, which is what these people are using, affordable plans and free consultation available. That's not SEO language. That's never going to get you ranked. But that's the type of language that appeals to somebody who wants to buy. The language that appeals to somebody who wants to research, that's what gets you ranked. So there's kind of a psychological funnel in people's mind. When you're just learning, you don't want to hear free consultation. You don't want to hear schedule a tour. You don't want to hear anything about tuition rates. You just want to hear, what is Montessori? Well, we're not going to bid on that for paid. That's where we get optimized. But when people are actually ready to tour your school, enroll, ask questions that are buying questions, they're more likely to go to the paid ads. So our emphasis is on paid ads because that's where we see the most bang for your buck in the short term. I'm not telling you not to invest in SEO. What I am saying, though, is it's not fast, cheap, or easy. And so many agencies out there don't know what they're doing. A bad SEO agency can hurt you more than a good SEO agency can help you. So it's something to be really careful with. Emily, I spoke with Keith on the phone. I can tell he's sharp and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's a good resource to have. So I hope that helps answer the question and shed some light on the difference between these services.
And Emily, just so you know, I had to look up SEO as well when I first started here. I was like, there's so many acronyms in the marketing world. It's crazy.
That's what's funny too. Is SEM is search engine marketing. That's just everything. That's PPC and SEO combined and everything that you can do. And yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah, look at you. You're like, oh, it's like you're born into digital marketing, just like we were born in Montessori. Yeah.
Emily says, it looks like he could be your brother, which just means he's the poor guy. That's people that look like me become digital marketers because we want to stay inside. Any other questions? Here we go. PPC, I got pay-per-click left. Yep. And this honestly comes from Matt's strategy. Matt was he's the founder of Nido Marketing. He's the executive director at Bergamo Schools. He grew Bergamo from 200 to 500 students, knows everything he's doing. And he found that Google Ads was the highest performing strategy. We didn't. He figured that out. And when he engaged us, he said, this is where we're putting all of our funds in. And
you literally tried everything.
Everything. Yeah, he's done billboard, radio, television, newspaper, direct mail, mail drops, every type of digital marketing you can think of, including social. He, like Nicole, saw a decline in Facebook very early as well. He's a really brilliant marketer.
Right.
Any of our members going to be at AMS? Will we see anybody there? The conference in DC? Hey, Emily will be there, or Em will be there. Sorry.
I can't believe that's next week already. I feel like we've been talking about it so much. It's like,
I know.
It feels far away, but it's only next week. That's cool.
I'm getting sick too, so I feel like it's gonna crescendo right when I'm there.
3 staff are coming with Emily. I'm sure Nicole and David will probably be there. They're right in DC. So we'll get to meet them.
If they're not there, we should track them down and have vitamin C and elderberry. I have been taking vitamin C, but I should take elderberry. My kiddos take that a lot. Thank you for that. Yeah, Nicole. I think Nicole might have jumped ship. I think we boarded.
Yeah, she had a meeting.
Yeah, we'll reach out to her and maybe grab a coffee or something. But if you're in DC for AMS, please come over and say hi. And let us know if you have any questions. And again, just parroting what I said earlier, we're more than happy to hop on a phone call with anybody who has questions about the change in membership levels, because we know that there are significant changes. So if you're already a 3rd or 4th plan member, you should have already heard from us. If you check your email. And if you're not, then feel free to reach out. But we want to help guide you through these processes.
Right. And when this is up on the site, can we have, and I think, Cosmo, the best way to do this is actually have you shoot a quick video of just like recapping, what it is, what the changes are, and hey, it's live on our site. Maybe we can shoot an email blast out when that happens. Just to recap, because I know we went through all of it, but it was 45 minutes long. I don't imagine people are going to be able to listen to all of our banter,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We'll shoot just a quick, hey, here's what's going on. We'll send that out in an email. And I think on the site, my next plan is to have a video just briefly explaining our pricing, because that's a question that we get all the time. Hey, we don't understand this. It's too complex.
Right. Okay.
I'm excited to hear from you. Thank you for that. And I still have on my list to reach out to Courtney. I'm, again, as I have been, going to be very polite and respectful, but at a certain point, I think we need to kind of hold our ground. And I've spoken to Keith about that as well. And he's going to be on the email with me, and we're just going to say, hey, you can't do this. Because they're holding you hostage. Yeah, waiting for the team. We hear that all the time. I'll ask the team, waiting for the team. Really, that means I have no idea what's going on. I say those words myself sometimes.
I've done that a couple times, but usually I follow up the same day.
Right, yeah.
Our team is pretty fast.
Awesome. Everyone, so grateful to and for you. This has been a wild ride. Like, we've grown way faster than I expected, and I think we made some pretty significant impacts. And this is our first really big hurdle. and hopefully we address it head on and do so well. But really appreciate our member base because everybody's always been so supportive. So thank you for that.
Cool. All right, good stuff. Onward, right?
Yep. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.